Namo Om Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, last week we were looking at regulative devotional service. 1 second. We can show you that, what we did last week. Right one, right one. This one. Okay. Welcome to those who just joined us. Hare Krishna. Hope everyone, well, perhaps most here are local, but hope we all had ecstatic festival yesterday. Added with the spike of ecstasy that we've purchased 7 Berry Place. Gave extra ecstasy to the festival. Sure, we had a wonderful time. All right, so I just give a little review, as succinct and as quick as possible. So we're discussing regulative devotional service. That's the means for us to attain perfection. So very important to understand that. And what it actually is, according to Bhakti Rasmita Sindhu, according to Srila Prabhupada, and also the nectar of devotion. So, Maharaj directed us towards Rupa Goswami's nectar of devotion, or Bhakti Rasmita Sindhu, where he gives a very detailed account of what we should be doing as beginner devotees. What is regulative devotional service? And you find that in the nectar devotion. And then the most important, okay, let me just see here. Yeah. So, and then we discussed this verse in the Pacific because this verse states that regulative devotion ain't going to take you to Goloka Vrindavan from one perspective, okay? And it's going to take you to Vaikuntha, as this verse says. So why are we doing regulative devotion? Well, there's a particular type of regulative devotion that we are practicing we are practicing in the mission or in the Sankirtan movement. So that's a specific type of regulative devotion, which is not going to take us to Vaikuntha, but it's going to take us to where Krishna's exhibiting his wonderful pastimes. Yep. And so there's a particular mood which accompanies our practice of this regulated devotion. And someone might remind us what that mood is of 2 points, or 1 point mainly. This picture kind of gives it away. What's our goal?
Love of Krishna.
Yeah, but specifically,
Shyam Sundar.
yeah, you got it. Shyama Sundar. I mean, that's our goal. Shyama Sundar Vrindavan. So we practice the regulative devotion, which those who want to attain Vaikuntha also practice. But the mood that we practice in it is that we are aspiring to enter Vrindavan. So that's the mood of our particular regulative devotion. Yeah. So, and then we got more into what you might recognize from the nectar of devotion, that there's many rules and regulations, so many it can make your head spin. But the essence of our lives, no matter how many rules and regulations we're being told or we're instructing others to do, the essence of everything is to remember Krishna. Yeah. Sometimes we teach devotion, we teach deity worship. Although within our worship in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it's relatively quite simple. Still, there is quite a few rules and regulations of do's and don'ts. And so there isn't any point if you're so absorbed in all the do's and don'ts that you actually forget the goal. The goal is to remember Krishna. So then Rupa Goswami invokes this verse here, or this verse which is quoted in the. So there's a lot of devotees coming in. I'm getting there first before. Okay. So, and yeah, this is quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We to welcome devotees who just joined us. I just saw Mother Gayatri joined us, and also the great Dhruva Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Dhruvaji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so the essence is to, yeah, you can learn so many details and rules and rituals, but the essence of it, as we covered last week, which is doing a review, is so that we can remember Krishna, yeah, and never forget him. Yeah, so that's a kind of a guideline we can follow. So then we spoke about this. Then we got in how one can specifically think of Krishna. If it's said that we should always think of Krishna and never forget him. Okay, the easiest way, which everyone can answer, we chant Hare Krishna. Yeah. Isn't it amazing that we chant Hare Krishna and we often forget Krishna? Only a conditioned soul can do that. You chant Krishna's name and you're thinking of someone coming to fix the fridge. You're distracted. That's only possible for conditioned souls. But anyway, Maharaj brought up how one can always think of Krishna. Then he focused on the genius, excuse me, the genius of Srila Prabhupada, who gave us a mission to spread Krishna consciousness, keeping us very actively engaged in spreading the glories of Krishna. So we spoke a little bit about that, about preaching and book distribution. Yeah. So at the same time as we're, thinking of Krishna by the nature of that service, we're also serving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's wonderful, because that's a wonderful arrangement by Prabhupada, who is empowered to give the world Krishna consciousness and how to engage hundreds and thousands of people. Like we have a big mission. All parts of maybe parts of Pacific congregation of devotees and linked to temples, and there's so many activities to do to maintain the temples and the projects in our ISKCON society. But the idea is these are all reasons and good excuses to think of Krishna. So Prabhupada gave us the whole mission, yeah, in that regard. So then we brought it down to this point here of all the items mentioned in the nectar of devotion, Bhakti, Rasmrita Sindhu. These 5 are given as the most important. Yeah, so this is what we was discussing at the end of last week's class, and I just want to go down my notes down here. Okay, so then what if we can't, if we can't perform all of these, sometimes you'll find, we may find ourselves in a situation, or you may know of others who are unable to engage in some of these items. Yeah, these are the most important. Yeah. So then, what if a devotee cannot perform these, but must select one? I think some of you might know which one, but let's just follow this here. Now, of these 5 which are mentioned here, 3 are most important. Anyone can say what those 3 are?
Sadhu Sang, Bhagavatam, Sevanam.
And
Chanting the Hari name.
you got it.
The
We
name.
got it. All learned devotees here. Yeah. So of 3. So yeah, no deity worship. Oh dear. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you may be in a situation where you can't worship your deities, or you can't come to a temple. So at least hopefully you can have some association with devotee friends. You can read Bhagavatam and you can chant the holy name. Yeah. Now of these 3, the first 2 are you cannot go without. Yep. The first 2. associating with devotees, and chanting the holy name. So, which one would you choose if you had to choose one of these?
Chanting the holy
Chanting
name.
Yeah. Do you say the same, Dhruva? Or someone said chanting the holy name?
Dhruva.
Yeah. So that's the most. So that we never stop. I remember one devotee describing a little bit about his devotional life, and he really gone through some ups and downs. One time he had good, strong association devotees. Then he didn't have association. Then he wasn't living near a temple. But here he was, like 15 years later, having been through it. But the point is that he went through it. He went through a difficult phase in his life. And he said, the only reason I got through it was sometimes not having association with devotees, not having devotional service, etc., was that I always chanted my rounds. Yeah. So that saw him through. And then things changed, and he was very happy again to be in the temple in association with devotees, but he put that all down to chanting the holy names. So what Marge mentions here, if you are, I mean, we should choose all 64. That may not be possible. So at least these 5. Or sometimes we may be in a situation where, as we mentioned, not 5, at least we never give up the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So Marge brought that out. So then we're going to speak a little bit about that today, about chanting the holy name as being the most important. Yeah. So this is a nice picture here of Kripamoya, and he's Kripamoya on Harinam. This is an old picture as well here of devotee chanting. So this is the most powerful spiritual practice that we can do. And we have these other limbs of devotional practice: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. That's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. By chanting the holy name, you're automatically going to perform all other limbs of devotional service. Everything is included. Yeah. And further, you may have heard this before. This is from Jiva Goswami's Krama Sandarbha. Now, the Krama Sandarbha is Jiva Goswami's verse-by-verse commentary, as with Prabhupada's commentary on the Bhagavatam. So he doesn't comment on every single verse, Jiva Goswami, but it's called Krama Sandarbha. Yeah. So he's speaking on this verse by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. That's in the 7th canto, as you said. And he brings this out. He said that the essence is that in this specific age of Kali, which we are all in somehow by our own actions, we are in the age of Kali. So we're very fortunate because we can chant the holy name. But the point here is that kirtan must accompany the other 8 branches of bhakti. So it's not an option for one who wants to advance in devotional service. Although it's mentioned that you can reach perfection through these other practices, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, for etc., etc. In this age of Kali, for them to be successful, one must chant the holy name of the Lord. So it's not an option. So kirtan must accompany. Like, for example, when we teach deity worship, we teach a specific soul-to-soul Pachara Puja, worship of Gaunitai. Included in that worship is chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Yeah. So if devotees miss that out, then we tell them, no, you must chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as well. Yeah. So Jiva Goswami brings that out in the Krama Sandarbha. So then Marge brings out, so please, if any questions or comments, please feel free to ask, or any reflections. Yeah. So we have Shravanam is the first. Yeah. Shravanam. So we mentioned about kirtanam, chanting. So Maharaj discusses here why is Shravanam the first on the list of the most important limbs of devotional service. Yeah, so although we read in Srimad Bhagavatam and also the commentary of the Acharyas, there's so many statements about hearing, but they do so along with constant glorification. So Sravanam, Kirtanam. So along with constant glorification of Sankirtan as the best limb of devotion. So the point here we're making is here, Prabhupada says, to quote here, this is from a lecture. These 9 processes of devotional service, of which Shravanam, hearing, is the most important. One second. Can I make a humble request? Perhaps some of you have. Oh, yeah, Mother Chandravali has a camera on, so does Sahachari. It's good to see some faces. So if you can, dear devotees, you can put your cameras on. Thank you. I can see if you're smiling or you're not. And I know I'm saying the wrong thing or the right thing. Or I can see you're falling asleep. Okay. So Prabhupada says these are 9 processes of devotional service, of which Shravanam, hearing, is the most important. So without hearing, we cannot understand the science of God. So that's probably the primary thing that we do when we first enter the association of devotees, especially once you start attending temples. You learn to hear. You just learn to hear. I remember when I first joined, I mean, occasionally me and my friends would discuss philosophy. Occasionally, very rarely. And we definitely wouldn't discuss philosophy for an hour. All these frivolous things we would discuss. I remember when I first moved into the temple, all of a sudden, all of a sudden I was hearing philosophy every day in the morning for an hour or more, and then more philosophy. At one point I was thinking, this is too much. This is too much every day. It's so much philosophy, philosophy, philosophy. Hearing, so much hearing. But then I got a taste for it in the end. I started to adjust, and I got a taste for sitting in front of and sitting and hearing philosophy for an hour, sometimes more, you know. But hopefully that's our experience, because that's very important. The first thing you want to do is hear, because we get taught of how to chant the holy name. So in that sense, hearing is the most important, because it's a means to acquire knowledge about devotional service. So, yes. Now, once we've heard the science, once we've heard the science of Krishna consciousness, once we heard, then chanting, it's important that there's an effect, and that effect is the chanting. So definitely in the beginning, hearing is very important, and also throughout our devotional career, hearing is very important. But then it should lead to chanting. So then that's why chanting is said to be the most important. Okay, but it's not possible without hearing. So just to clarify that, the difference, Shravanam, Kirtanam. Yeah. So then some quotes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is basically from the very beginning, it glorifies the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. From the sages of Naram Sharanya, for hearing from Sutta Goswami, from Sukadev Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, and all the other interwoven discussions in the Bhagavatam. Again and again it's mentioned about the importance of chanting, and especially in this age of Kali. Yeah, there's anyone know that verse? Just slipped my mind. Kirtana eva Krishna mukta sangha param bhajet. Yeah, Kali is not a good place to be, but it has one good quality, that simply by chanting the holy name one can achieve perfection. Yeah. So yes. Any questions so far? All familiar with
Murli Prabhu,
Yes,
may I ask,
please, Srila.
how is the Gayatri Mantra in relation to the holy name? Yeah, if we're saying in deity worship, sort of we can making sure. How does Gayatri Mantra? And in the process, it's not really mentioned chanting Gayatri or something. Why not in the 9 processes or anything?
Yeah, oh, interesting, your question. Yeah, well, the Gayatri mantras in of themselves, they are a form of chanting because they consist of the holy names of the Lord. Yeah. So over and above that, it 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 can act to assist and further define the direction or the perfection of our devotional life. The different mantras which are there. It helps to further enhance. It can help, of course, by chanting the pure name, then there is no need for anything else. But the Gayatri mantras can greatly assist in giving further definition to one's meditation in devotion. Yeah, in essence. Yeah. So from a higher perspective or from a more advanced perspective, the Gayatri mantras are a form of chanting the holy name as well. They're a means to remember Krishna. And especially they invoke the 3 principles, the 3 basic principles of Abhidheya, Sambandha, and Prayojan. In each of the Gayatri mantras, each of the mantras, there's a part which is in relationship to Abhidheya, and there's a part which is in relationship to Sambandha, and there's a part that is in relationship to Prayojan. Yeah. And then further on, there's different mantras that we chant. Obviously, we have the Brahma Gayatri, and that has a specific purport for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It's too much to describe here. That's another seminar we do. But the Gayatri mantra ultimately has a specific smaran for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It means different things for different spiritual practitioners throughout India. But for us, it has specific meditation, which is directed towards Radha Krishna. Then we have the mantras which we pay obeisances to the Guru. So there's Guru Smaran, which is very important. Then we have meditation upon the Guru. Then we have meditation and obeisances to Gauda. So that's very important. That can assist us. Hope I'm not giving too much away about the Gayatri mantras. No, we're not actually giving the mantras. We're just giving the essence of their meaning. So then we also have remembrance of Smaran of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in essence, you can see how they assist us if you're paying attention. If you're not paying attention to those mantras, they're not much use. Something may be there. At least you're not thinking of nonsense, you know? So that's useful. Yeah. So then, yeah, we'll meditate upon Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then the final 2 mantras is you're meditating upon Krishna in Vrindavan, specifically. And then you're meditating, and then the Kama Gayatri is Krishna's loving exchanges with his devotees. Yeah. So it's quite deep and quite esoteric. So you can understand it can only assist us, and we need all the help we can get. Yeah. Ramana Sukha, did I see a hand raised, or was you just coming in or going up? Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting, uh, topic in and of itself, Gayatri,
Yeah.
and how that facilitates all aspects of bhakti, especially chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra.
Yeah.
The way I sometimes try and describe it, because I see a lot of times devotees are like, they get Gayatri mantra, but they're kind of like left on their own to figure it out.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's top secret, don't talk about it. But I actually think more, kind of seminars or something should actually be there to help devotees understand Gayatri, because it is very profound.
Mhm.
And the way I describe it is there's a synergy between the Hare Krishna mantra and the Gayatri mantras. The Gayatris are being chanted internally, silently. Hare Krishna mantra is being chanted, by verbalizing the actual mantra.
Yeah.
But if it's being done right, Gayatri helps with the chanting of Hare Krishna, and Hare Krishna helps with the chanting of Gayatri,
Yeah.
so that you actually, it's not simply a duty to perform Gayatri, but you actually try and go into a 10-minute internal meditation and meditate on the meanings as you are going through the Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. And that's basically the essence of Gayatri. It can really facilitate all aspects of Krishna consciousness. And of course, it's so important in deity worship as well. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was a question by Dhruva, but it's a whole nother seminar topic to really get into.
Yeah, thank you, Ramanath Sukapu.
Mm.
Yeah, and they're also used, as you mentioned, in some aspects of deity worship, in the purification, etc. Yeah. So, for example, that's just, for instance, the Guru Gayatri. It means you're actually invoking the presence of your guru within your consciousness. That's the idea. You're actually associating with the guru through that attentive chanting of the Guru Gayatri, So you're taking his association, to be inspired by him. Anyway, without opening up a whole Gayatri course. Is that okay, Dhruva? Some thoughts?
No, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
There's some books out there. There's one by Satyananda Maharaj. That was the first book, I think. There's a book, Shiva Maharaj writes about it in one volume of New Vraj Mahima. You might read that as well. Yeah.
That's number 7.
Yeah, you know it. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Just to mention, Murli, there is a third book by Mahanidi, ex-Swami. I don't know exactly how to address him, but he's a bit controversial. I mean, I have read what he said about Gayatri. A lot of it I resonate with, but I cannot, in honesty, suggest that devotees read the Mahanidi version.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that, Ramnath Sukha.
Yeah.
So like you recommended perhaps not reading it.
Not reading it, because you have enough with Satyananda Swami and Shivaram Swami.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Deep Satyananda Maharaj's book. He speaks a lot about the technicalities of it and also the meaning.
Yeah.
Shivaram Maharaj goes quite into depth and he approaches it from a bhajan perspective, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
Study.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a whole nother seminar. I'm fascinated by the topic myself, but
remember you attended our classes. We was giving classes in it. Remember?
Again, it's just something that I think about because, like I said, I do see devotees who actually struggle with Gayatri. They may not talk about it, but sometimes if you get into what's going on in their life and you actually ask them, are you chanting your Gayatris? And if they're honest, they'll say, sometimes I'm having trouble understanding why I'm doing this or what I'm doing wrong or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of hidden in the background, but it's one of those things I think there should be more seminar discussion type things.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So now we have 2 types of chanting. What's the 2 types of chanting that we do?
Inattentive and attentive.
Inattentive. Oh, at least there's good. You got attentive as an option. That's great. I was speaking in another direction, And jappa, that's we do in private, And then we got kirtan. Yeah. So both have to be done, both jappa and also kirtan, public chanting. So kirtan, so Sankirtan definition given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, quoted from his, if I pronounce this right, Amnaya Shrutra. I think it's from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says, when many devotees are assembled together to enjoy chanting the Lord's glories, such chanting is called Sankirtan. So that's what we're doing. We're gathered together to enjoy chanting the glories of the Lord. Yeah. Okay. So we find our acharyas, Prabhupada, and our other acharyas, they stress chanting Hare Krishna in public. That's a big difference between the Gayatri mantras and the Maha Mantra. In that sense, it has a wider reach, wider circle of reach does the Maha Mantra. So this stress of public chanting, I'm sure all of us who are members of ISKCON, we're brainwashed into this, which is good. We all know the importance of chanting Harinam. I think we know why as well. Obviously, when we chant to ourselves, hopefully we're benefited if we chant attentive. Okay. Now, when we chant in public, obviously many others are benefited. So we're not just benefiting ourselves, but we're benefiting everyone. This also mentioned Harinam Cintamani. So very important for us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. That's what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He didn't lock himself away to chant jappa all the time. He was loudly chanting you read his wonderful descriptions of the kirtans of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chanting the holy name loudly with great exuberant, ecstatic dancing in ecstasy, etc. Of course, he's there. That's called pure Sankirtan. Yeah. So it helps us to invoke the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because we're fulfilling his desire. He has this desire, quite an amazing desire, that every town and village his name will be chanted. That's pretty amazing desire. And if we're helping him to fulfill that desire, he becomes very happy. Yeah. Anyone had something where you really want to do something? You really want to do something, but perhaps you can't get to do it. Well, Lord Chaitanya can do it, but then someone else does it for you. It's a bit of a mundane example. You think, oh, well done, thank you so much. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, Ramanath Sukhabru, is that the same hand or that is a new hand? Perhaps it might be the same. Oh, it's gone. Hare Krishna. Okay. And so, yeah, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy flows to all involved. Yeah. Yeah, do you know how much more benefit you get if you chant in kirtan rather than japa? Anyone know that number? How much more benefit do you get? Any guesses? Twice as much benefit, 4 times as much benefit?
1,000.
Oh, that's weird. You have to come down a bit, I'm afraid.
100.
100. Well done, Dhruvaji. 100 times. I was just studying up for this class just before we opened up, and I read this, and my opinion was, man, I don't go on Harinam enough. I don't go on Harinam enough. That's my conclusion. I need to go more on Harinam. Yeah, 100 times more benefit. Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. Why? Because you're benefiting so many people and you're pleasing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So of course we might not have the opportunity. Okay, if you're brahmachari living in a temple and your service is Harinam, then great. You're very fortunate. But we might not be in that position. We may be at home in Tooting and there's not Harinam going out every day, etc., etc. But as much as possible, when we get the opportunity, it's always good to go to a temple, chant the holy name with other Vaishnavas, or join the Harinam. We have a famous Harinam on Saturday night. It's been going for years. Well, ever since I joined, it was there. The famous Saturday night Harinam. It's still there. It's very ecstatic. I was there a couple of weeks ago. But to be truthful, I don't go so often. So that's my admission of guilt. I need to go more to get 100 times more benefit. All right. So in other words, it cannot be over. You can never overemphasize the importance of chanting. You can never exaggerate it. Yeah. So Maharaj mentions here that it governs all other devotional acts and empowers those other devotional acts to bestow love of God upon the devotee. I'll read that again. It empowers the other acts of Shravanam Kirtan and everything else we do. It empowers those to bestow love of God upon the devotee. Yeah. And then Maharaj quotes from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So I should have put more slides in here. I've just got 1, 2 pictures, and I'll bring up different quotes from different scriptures. I should have perhaps put more slides up so you can see it. So yeah, so when he mentions, this is from Brihat Bhagavatamrita, when the nectar of the Lord's name appears in just one sense, all the senses are flooded with their own sweet tastes. Right, so this is chanting. This is not offensive chanting. I would say this is not clear, not on the clearing stage. This is a Suddha. This is the experience. Yeah, all the senses are flooded with a sense of devotion. Yeah. So also Nam Sankirtan does not depend on any external conditions or prerequisites or paraphernalia. And you can never go wrong. One of my experiences is that, sometimes festivals, something might go wrong, or some other aspect of devotional service in connection to the temple and the organization, there might be some mishap. But you can never go wrong in Harinam. You just go and chant the holy name. Yeah. I had the experience where sometimes I'm doing a homa. I don't do this so often, but I do a homa. There's so much stuff I have to remember. There's so much paraphernalia. There's so many things you have to remember when you do a homa. I mean, you can't even sit down on the asan without doing a procedure. And once you sit on the asan, you've got to do other procedures. Then you've got to invoke so many, you've got to invoke the presence of all different shaktis, and then you've got to invoke the fire. Then you have to remember the mudras for invoking the fire. Then you have to say prayers to the fire. Then before that, you have to purify everything with mantras. It's so much. And before that, you've got to prepare, you've got to get the wood, you've got to prepare, you get the idea. You have to make sure, the fire is not going to set light to the house. And it has to be a specific time. There's an auspicious time to do the fire yagna, as well. So you're looking at astrology to find the best time. But Harinam, you don't need any of that. Wonderful, huh? And it's the most powerful. You can just go out and chant the holy name anytime, any day. It doesn't matter. There's no hard and fast rules. Yeah. One time where I was learning to chant Vedic mantras in the Vedic style, once you start chanting the mantra, then you have to finish it, and you can't nod your head back and forward. You can't cough. You can't do this. You can't do that. There's so many rules to chanting Vedic mantras. But with Harinam, there's no hard and fast rule. Yeah, specially made for us Kali Yugaites. Yeah. So yes. So continuing here, Nam Sankirtan fulfills all sacrifices, penance, and austerities. Yeah. There's more here, so many. And then Maharaj quotes Srila Prabhupada, if one wants to achieve success at the end of life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, so how do we do that? Prabhupada says by constantly and incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yeah. Now, still, although there's no hard and fast rules for chanting, it should be done in the mood of respect. So that's why we have the 10 offenses. So you can do it in the mood of respect. I mean, we won't go for all the 10 offenses, I'm sure. All of you are familiar with them. So we need to be careful that we're not committing offenses while we're chanting our round. I'm sure we've heard this so many times, but why not hear it again? It's always good to hear. Yeah. So yeah, especially Maharaj mentions here, especially when we're doing our prescribed rounds, your 16 prescribed rounds, you should take that as very much sacred. And you shouldn't, for example, chant while you're driving. Anyone's done that? Hope not, but you may seem chant can, maybe somehow or another, due to a passionate lifestyle, you may conclude that I've got to get my rounds chanted. Therefore, let me, I'm driving, I've got 2 hour drive. I'm on a motorway, or I'm driving somewhere for an hour through central London. So let me get one of those clickers you keep on your, now you can get clickers that you just put on your finger, and just press it. So I've seen people do that. I've seen devotees do that. Always gives me great pain when I see that. Gives me great pain in the heart to actually see that. That's offensive. And also it breeds inattentive chanting. Because, for example, if you're chanting while you're driving, then you're also negotiating the traffic, hopefully. Other things are in your consciousness, or on the, other things are in the space of your consciousness. You're looking at traffic lights, you're looking at the car behind you, subtly you're thinking of the gears. So many things are going on. Yeah. And you're chanting at the same time. So when you sit down, when you do actually sit down and you're not driving, sitting in a place to do your jappa, you're not gonna, your mind's going to be in the same practice. It's going to be thinking of all these subtle things will be going through your mind, because that's how you've trained yourself. Because when you're chanting, when you're driving, there's all other things other than the holy name going through your mind. So it breeds offensive chanting. I mean, it is offensive, and it breeds further offenses while chanting. So Marge mentions that during cooking as well, we don't want to, you can chant, but your 16 rounds, yeah, shouldn't be done while you're doing other things, yeah. And of course, there's classes that devotees give going back many years about dive bomb jappa and all these different types of jappa. There's a new one called laptop jappa. Has anyone does laptop jappa? That's where you've got your bee bag in your hand and you're surfing on the net with your other hand. You're on the computer, And the other one is phones. We could give a whole thing on that, but your phones. I've seen that many. It's so practically every day I see it. Sometimes devotees are chanting japa, and they, especially young, you see more young devotees, Indian devotees. All due respect to them, students, they got their japa beads, and they're scrolling at the same time. I mean, they're chanting Hare Krishna, and they're scrolling in the left hand. So that's okay. We may laugh about, but that's offensive. And if that's continued, and if that's not improved, it will create obstacles in one's spiritual life. Yeah. So Marge mentioned, so not chanting properly as well. Make sure we're chanting all the syllables, not slurring or skipping. Yeah. Yeah, that was brought to my attention many years ago. I wasn't chanting a whole mantra. This was when I'm traveling Sankirtan, and I was too proud to admit it. So what my devotee friends did, that's what friends are for, is they taped me chanting secretly. Then they played it back to me. Oh God. Some humble pie. So make sure we're chanting the right mantra, make sure we're not skipping any names, because it's the most important thing in our life. It's very sacred to us. It's our means, as we're hearing here. So we want to doing it nicely, very nicely, as attentive as much attentiveness and devotion that we can muster. Is something sacred for us, So we should be aware of the fences to chanting the holy name. They're there. So we should avoid that. Yeah, Maharaj, from Maharaj, in his perspective, he says from his experience, he says such negligence is prevalent in ISKCON today. Yeah, that's his experience, is prevalent. Yeah. So this will, yes, so this offensive chanting, time, okay, it will weaken the efficiency of Vaidhi Bhakti. It's very, very powerful. Very, very, the yangas of Bhakti which we're following are very powerful, especially chanting is very powerful. But if we're making offenses, it won't be powerful. Yeah. It won't change it, or it might change your heart, but it may take many, many lifetimes. And there's a verse in that regard. So it will weaken our ability to remember Krishna. Yeah. So it can give so much benefit, but if we're making offenses, then we're not going to get that benefit. And that's because, I guess, in our lives, in devotional lives, then most of us, I guess, we admit, then we go through different stages. Sometimes we may go through a stage where we're just inattentive. There may be things happening in our life or even in a day that it makes sitting down and concentrating more difficult than others. So this, especially if you don't have taste, then the external is going to be very important for us. If there's taste, there'll be a natural, even if you're tired, you will love to chant and you won't feel tired. Does that make sense? Even if you're tired, if you've got a taste for chanting, then you won't feel tired. You know? Any comments or questions on this little jappa seminar thing? Yes. Yeah, then Marge mentions here, by such offensive chanting, devotees are going to say something frightening here, gradually retreat to Maya's lap. Yeah. So it might not happen overnight. It might happen over some time. So that's why it's good sometimes, if we can, to chant in association of devotees, or to attend a japa retreat if we can. They're nice. We might want to plan that out as one of our holidays from work. Okay, I'm going to chant a japa retreat with Mahatma Prabhu or Satyananda Maharaj, or go to Govardhan. They do a wonderful yearly Govardhan retreat where they focus on Harinam. ISKCON today actually offers many good opportunities for clearing up our messy japa. Yeah. If that's the case. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, in the time that we have left, any questions on that? Quick little compressed seminar on japa there. Yes, Alexander G, please.
Yeah, just a comment. As I've observed that whenever it's an attentive chanting, also you invite this offensive thinking. All of a sudden you start to think differently, not as pure as before, and you lose attachment
Yeah,
as a result of offensive, and the sense of belonging, actually longing, becomes like a foreign thing.
yeah, it becomes a shadow of what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. So it's a good point. So like one thing leads to another. Now, it's only natural for us as conditioned souls that when we chant, we're going to be inattentive. But the point is, you do something about it. Once you're inattentive, then you are conscious of that and you be attentive. So from wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering nature, one must certainly bring it back under control of the self. So as Alexander said, yes, so from inattentive chanting comes inattentive thinking, and one thing leads to another. Yeah. Okay. So then in this chapter, we've got just over 10 minutes left. Mike brings up the question here. So as we mentioned, the first one off the list of the 5 of the most important, the first one to go overboard was deity worship. Did you notice that? Of all the items, the first one that went overboard is deity worship. Yeah. So why do we have deity worship if chanting Hare Krishna is sufficient in itself or perfection? I'm sure. Put out for a question, some of you might have a good idea. Yeah, but let's discuss that a little bit. So yes, chanting is sufficient, provided, as we mentioned, it is done without the fence and somewhat and free of material contamination. Yeah. And then he mentions, Srila Prabhupada quotes in the Adi Leela, and I think he's quoting from Jiva Goswami, because this is a topic we bring up in deity worship. Obviously, why do we engage in deity worship if chanting is a means to perfection? So Prabhupada quotes, he's quoting, well, he says here in the purple, and I'm pretty sure that he's chanting, he's referring to Jiva Goswami. So he says, almost all the souls we have to initiate are conditioned. Due to their past habits, they violate the rules and regulations. So Jiva Goswami says this also, as we're mentioning. So Jiva Goswami was with us over 500 years ago. So he was, at one point, he was the Acharya. So there's many persons were coming. He was well known. So many aspirant Vaishnavas and practitioners were coming to him for direction or going to Rupa Goswami. I mean, we don't hear those details, but we could probably envision that they was approached by many persons to become their shishyas and to become their disciples. So his observation of those coming to him this was 500 years ago. What about now? Yeah. That they have, they're very unsteady minds due to so many things. Alexander, you had your hand raised?
I wanted to share that before deity worship for me was more impersonal, and deity worship became more personal, and it brought it to life. It became a little bit more, alive, I would say.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So yeah, as again we mentioned that we might not have the qualification. We might not have the qualification to like sit down and do bhajan. So therefore, what we're going to do with our restless selves? Yeah, what we're going to do with our restless selves? So engage in deity worship. That's why it's been given to assist and to help us. Yeah. So yeah, Prabhupada, he's just reading here. Prabhupada introduced and stressed as essential. So there's rules and regulations in worshipping the deity in the temple and at home. Yeah. So we follow a system called Pancharatrika Vidhi. So this Pancharatrika, this enables anyone from any position, from any background, to take up the activities of Bhakti and to become fully purified. So these activities of Pancharatrika Vidhi, which is deity worship, that's meant to, Bhaj mentioned, to restrict the spirit of sense enjoyment for those who have a bodily concept of life. So instead of doing so many things for the spirit of sense enjoyment, we engage in our energy, in our restless energy and our senses in practical things. As I think Alexander was saying, as well, he brings it to life. You're actually doing things for Krishna, bathing him, bathing, dressing, feeding the Lord. Yeah. So it's easy then, it's much easier to develop a personal conception of God. Yeah. If we're serving God personally. Yeah, it helps to free us from obstacles. So all this is helping us to free us from all the obstacles to Suddha, to the pure chanting of the name. Yeah. Now, if we have children in a house, etc., you may not have the opportunity to preach every day, just like brahmacharis in the temple. I mean, that's their duty, unless they're, doing other duties in the temple. So in that way, they can easily fix their minds upon Krishna. So Prabhupada said that for Grihastha devotees, deity worship is not an option. It's a must. Yeah, it's a must. Okay, what type of deities you worship? There's a whole story. That's a whole nother, not story, but that's another seminar. Yeah, and your type of worship that you do, that's another seminar. But so here's a frightening quote from Srila. Everyone want to hear a frightening quote? A scary quote from Prabhupada? Any hands up?
Yes.
Yes, Mohini wants to hear a scary quote. Chandravali, Sachari. Anyone else? Vishalni, you want to hear a scary quote?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Grihastha devotees. So hands up if you're a Grihastha devotee, if you have a house. Okay. Grihastha devotees, however, okay, this part you might not like, are generally engaged in material activities. Yeah. In relationship to the house and the kids, etc. And therefore, if they do not take to deity worship, their falling down is positively assured. So Prabhupada's given you positive confirmation that unless you engage in some form of deity worship, your fall down is assured. Quite a strong statement, isn't it? Stare in Bhagavatam. It's in the purport to Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Prabhupada speaks about all those angas of bhakti, and he speaks about archana in quite some detail. So it's coming from Jiva Goswami, also gives a stern warning to householders who neglect to worship the deity. So he says, they may ignore this duty on a plea of having no money. Yeah, but he says their cheating activities will be a source of inauspiciousness for them. Okay. Haven't scared everyone away, have I? Any questions on this? Anyway, looking at most of all engaged in some aspect of deity worship. Ramanath Sukhababu, please.
Yeah,
Your
it
wisdom.
scared me away. What a heavy statement. But actually, it's true when you think of what it means to be a grahasta. Yeah, it's not just a home, but it's a grahasta ashram. So as much as you make that home into an ashram, the better off you're going to be. And ashram, of course, has to be centered on deity worship. The family centered on deity worship, bring in Tulsi, all of it. That's actually grahasta ashram. And so, yeah, without that, then yeah, fall down is practically assured. I mean, that's the way it works. And
That's the way it
Krishna
works.
consciousness is a science. And yeah, these are hard, strong words, but yeah, devotees should strive for the ashram part of grihasta.
Yeah. Now, what type of worship you may do, that's another subject, but something should be there. Or even if somehow or another you're unable, then you should definitely come to the temple every day. Or if not, you should definitely have some worship at home. Yeah. Because that way it can, as Ramnath Sukha said, then you're developing a devotional environment in the home where there can otherwise be so many distractions. So in that way you're going to see the home and your wealth as not your property, but it all belongs to Thakurji. It all belongs to the Lord. Yeah. So Marge mentions here, then as his servants, they simply offer back to the Lord whatever he has given them as their necessities. And I must say, excuse that, I've been to a few devotees' houses, quite a few, and some of them have astounding deity worship. I mean, really beautiful. Some are more simple, but it's still very devotional, very simple. Some some dedicate a whole room, depends on your situation, you know. But some houses where it's just like so impressive, and the atmosphere is so devotional. Yeah. Now, Marge mentions here, this is his experience as well. He mentions here, it's not, I just read it. as it is. It's not unusual when doing home programs, excuse me, to see family altars in the closets where the deity lives in poverty while the family lives in luxury. Okay. So the deity may not be taken care of very nicely. It's just in the closet. It's on the shelf next to the it's on the shelf next to the trinkets you brought back from Spain on your holiday, you know. And they're just in the corner there. The television may be blaring or something, you know. And you got the deities on the side, you know. So that's not the concept Marge mentions that of deity worship that's given by our acharyas. So we must worship according to our means, yeah, not with less. So worship the Lord according to our means and not with less. Of course, it can be different for everyone, you know. Okay, there is more here, but perhaps we're paused there. There's a few more things to mention here in regards to this. Okay, so thank you everyone for your kind attention. Any closing comments here? Okay, hopefully when we sit down tomorrow, we're going to clutch those beads a little bit more tighter. And we're going to try a little bit more to try and concentrate with attention, you know. And just to let you know, Monday, I'll be going to Mayapur. I'll be there. I have some service in Mayapur, so I'll be there for a couple of months, perhaps even more, perhaps 3 months. But I really want to continue these classes. Now, for me, in Mayapur, 6 p.m. is 12:30 midnight.
Hey, I'm going to India too, so we
All
can
right.
change the time.
So what I did last time is I changed it. It's quite of a drastic change for yourselves in this part of the world. We was doing it 12:30 midday. So English time, 12:30 midday. Hopefully that's okay with devotees. There's a few
With me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Let me look at anybody else.
Yeah, it should be okay.
Okay. All right then. Okay. So for those who is not, those perhaps it's a bit, then we always have the recordings. Although recordings is, you know, I don't think many people listen to recordings. Even, you know, even if they say, I'm going to listen to a recording.
Not the same.
Happen often, 'cause they're so busy. Anyway, the recordings will be there. So you're quite welcome to make use of them if that's the case. Okay. So next week, Krishna willing, I'll be tuning in from Mayapur. Okay. Next Thursday. Yeah, I want to continue this. Okay. Dear devotees, thank you for your kind attention and wish you a wonderful jappa tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Safe flight, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Krishna,
Prabhu. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
For the
Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama.
Krishna.
Hare
Ram Ram, Hare